Today's guest is Margi Kyle, host of People in the Know, a show that spotlights the leaders and changemakers shaping Lake Norman. But Margi's own story might be the most powerful one she's ever told. She's a professional interior designer known as the Color Doctor, a former television host, and the founder of Little Smiles, North Carolina. Not only that, she survived 3 catastrophic car accidents, was told she would never walk again, proved them wrong, and is now navigating the grief of losing her husband. This is a conversation about rebuilding your body, your life, your purpose, when everything tells you to stop. So, Margi, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, take us back to the accident. Like, when did this happen? What exactly happened?
Well, I'm taking you way back to when I was 16.
Mm.
And I was in high school, obviously, and I had my first car accident. I had 2 friends in the car with me, and it was after school, and somebody had run a red light and slammed right in the side of the car, threw all of us out of the car, and was just getting back on my feet. And my brother wanted to borrow my car up in college. So I went with another friend and we got hit from behind going to school. And that was the worst one. That was, I was unconscious for several months.
So, wait, there were
And
multiple wrecks
I had 3 major car accidents when I was 16.
in the same year.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that
It
just
was
made your
not my
story.
best year.
Yeah, that just made your story like 20 million times more interesting. That's wild. Okay, go
So
ahead.
that
Sorry.
one, that one I was told I'd never walk again.
Oh, man.
And I was on my way to the hospital to have x-rays and all that neat stuff when I was hit by another driver in the ambulance.
Whoa.
And so anyway, when the police came, he said to me, "Young lady, what's wrong with you?" And I said, "This is my 3rd car accident." I said, "The man that hit me smells and talks funny." Well, he was a local alcoholic. And he ran right into the ambulance that was taking me to the hospital just for a checkup. And so, anyway, the police officer said, "I'm going to stay right here with you." And I said, "Could you call my doctor?" And he said, "Well, I'll never get through." And I said, "No, I have his direct line. So just tell him that we've been in another car accident and we'll be a few minutes late." So anyway, police officer stayed with me and actually brought me home. To which, when my mother saw I was with another police officer, she passed out.
Oh my gosh.
And my dad had given me my own phone line, yellow pages, a Bible, and a dictionary. And I looked under doctors, and I was studying chiropractor. And so then I went in my dictionary to look it up there. And I called him and I told him that I'd been in 3 major car accidents, was told I'd never walk again. Could he help? And he said, "How old are you?" And I said, 60. So long story short, I said, "I'm going to call my doctor and see if it's okay, and I'll call you right back. Will you be there?" And he said, "For you, yes." So I picked up the phone, called my doctor. He said, I couldn't even say chiropractor. So I spelled it for him. And he said, "That is the most brilliant thing you could have done." He said, "He can't hurt you." So he came that night, talked to my mother, and my mother said, "If you can help her, help her." And I said to the doctor, "I will be walking by July. That's my goal because I'm going to college." And he said, "Well, I can't guarantee." Well, I said, "No, I know you can't, but I can." And
Love
I was
that.
absolutely determined. All my high school friends were going on their senior break to Washington and all this fun stuff. And I had a goal, and that was to walk. And I also had a dictionary, so I started calling women's colleges because I knew my parents wouldn't let me go to a co-ed school. It had to be all women. So I called Centenary College for Women in New Jersey. The dean of the college answered the phone, and she was my very first mentor, Dean Bigelow. And I told her my story, and she said, "Sweetheart, I too was in a car accident. I have all the same equipment that you're using. I will be in Michigan in 3 weeks." And I said to her, "I will be walking."
Wow.
You'll have to come to my house." She said, "I will drive to your house." We lived on an apple orchard, and I said, "I promise you a big apple pie and a cup of coffee or tea, whatever you would like." Well, my parents didn't believe me. They said, "She's making this up." So Dean Bigelow came to the house, and we talked for quite a while. Long story short, she said to my mother, "She's coming to my school, and I will put her in my dorm next to my room so that she can come in anytime and do her exercise." Well, my parents had a fit, but they let me go, and it was probably the best thing I could have done. The only problem was Dad said, "I'll only let her go if she becomes a secretary." Well, that was the last thing on my list. I really
Didn't
wanted to
strike
write
me as a
children.
secretary.
So anyway, 3 weeks into college, Dean Bigelow says, "Miss Schmidt, are you enjoying it?" And I said, "I love everything, but I will never be a secretary.
Hmm.
So I'm going to have to come back and take your course in early childhood psychology." And she said, "No, let me call your father and talk to him." So long story short, Dad finally agreed, and I switched over to early childhood education. But when I graduated, top of my class, with a brand new car he'd given me, I drove home, and on my desk in my bedroom was an envelope to go to Pontiac, Michigan Business School,
Hmm.
which was fine. I did that for the summer, and then I ended up um, starting a daycare center for children with special needs, and I absolutely loved that.
Wow.
And then from there, of course, I had 2 children, then adopted a 13-year-old
Hmm.
and thought, maybe this isn't what I need to be doing the rest of my life. So, um, I went back to school and became an interior designer and then taught interior design. Well, I still am at 83. So,
Yeah, they called you the doctor of color? Is that what they say?
color doctor.
Color
Yeah, I
doctor,
have
yeah.
a
Yeah.
color program. I'm executive director of the Dewey Color System.
Very, very
So,
cool. This episode is sponsored by Torchbearer Tachyon, a divine portal for peace based in Charlotte, North Carolina. They offer 1-hour nervous system resets, available both in person and remotely, designed to bring you into alignment physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically. If you're feeling called to reset and recalibrate, you can experience it for yourself at a discounted rate. Listeners of The Unveiled receive 20% off your first session, bringing it from $111 down to $88.80 when you use code UNVEILED20. Book your session at torchbearertachyon.com today. So what was your recovery like? I mean, you're going to college out fresh out of 3 car wrecks. They say you can't walk again. Why did they tell you that? And then like the chiropractor, I guess, was the one that made you be able to
he
walk
really
again?
got me up and walking. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
And I think when you're down, you've got to really have strong goals and you've got to push yourself beyond your comfort level. And I thought, I'm not spending the rest of my life in bed. I just am not.
Right.
And, it was very lonely that year in bed, that senior year, because kids go off and they've got lots to do and they forget that you're not able to do anything.
Yeah.
So you really have to look within and figure out what is your strength.
Hmm.
Fast forward many years, I had the opportunity of spending a day with Dr. Mark Victor Hansen. who he changed my life. And he said, "You've got to write your own life story.
Mm.
Where you want to be 3 years from now, 5 years from now. What are you going to be wearing? What are you going to be doing?" And then I started mentoring girls that wanted to be an interior design or anything, just needed mentoring. And again, write your life story and then go for it. It's amazing when you write things down, they happen.
I've found that. And so one thing that my ego will not let me do, like during self work, I've seen it where I've literally manifested the exact amount of money that I was making that year before by writing everything down every morning. And I would burn a piece of paper, I'd write it in present tense. And then for some reason, I cannot get myself to add that back into my routine because I think I know how powerful it really is. And I may have to actually level up to that, maybe. But, talk more about the
Yeah.
writing and why that is.
Well, and it was interesting because my one grandson called me one night and he said, "Grammy, I'm at your front door. Can I come in?" And he said, "Will you mentor me?" And I told him the same because he had no idea what he wanted to do. I
Mm,
said, "You need to write your life story. Once you write it down and you can see it, you achieve it."
mm,
One of my goals was to meet a partner. I wanted a male partner in the furniture industry because we had just moved from California to Toronto, Canada, and I didn't know the furniture industry. Within 3 weeks, I was teaching interior design and I took my design class on a tour of the International Center. And we walked into this one showroom and there was this little tiny man. And I said, "Everything's closed today." And he pulled out his keys and he said, "I have the keys to 20 showrooms. What do you want to see?" Had lunch with him that day with my daughter. We started connecting. We built a business that we were the largest design firm in Toronto for years.
mm.
So again, write it out and then go achieve it.
What makes you think like, what is it about writing it
You
that
see it?
makes it manifest faster and hands down, you're always gonna make it manifest after you write it down? Because I saw another person that said that it's like one of the golden rules to creating the life that you want is to write it all
That's
out.
right.
Like, every successful person writes things down. What what is do you know the science behind that? Because that would be very interesting to know.
When I've always said, seeing is believing.
So just
So
seeing
when you
it.
look back in your journal and you say, "Wow, I've achieved this, I've achieved this. I want to be here. How am I going to get here?" When
Yeah.
you open the universe, it comes back to you.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I cannot stress that enough because everything I've ever done. And then I had 2 other car accidents after that too, where I was in bed for over a year.
So was it a
So,
total of 5 or was it a total of 3?
yeah, 5.
Total 5.
Yeah. But now my
Holy
last car accident was about 30 years ago, and we
still.
had just moved from Toronto to North Carolina, so I had to totally regroup my life and write a whole 'nother book. And when I did, I found that Hunter Douglas had called me and said, "Would you teach interior design all over North America in every design school there is?" And I went,
Mm.
"Yep, yep." And that was one of my goals was to because I didn't teach window design. I wanted to make that happen. So, I
Wow.
wanted my own TV show. So I wrote it down when I was gonna achieve it, went and bought a director's chair, plopped it on the lawn of the studio, and said, "I'm not leaving till I have a show."
Wow. I love it. That's kinda
And,
like what
you
I'm
know, you
doing
have
too in real time. I didn't even know I wanted to do this, though. It, like, came to me, the podcasting, and I was like, "Well, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, like a real podcaster, right? Like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get a studio and I'm gonna show up like I'm already there, like living from the end, as Neville Goddard says. And hopefully one day this thing will be, seen everywhere around the world. And so I guess I'm kind of doing that in a way without knowing that I'm doing that intuitively.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you've got to follow your dreams.
Yeah.
You only have one life to live, and make sure it's your best one.
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm writing my first book out of nowhere as well. And I never wanted to be an author. It like kind of just came through me. So now I'm thinking, wow, everything I'm writing in that book is probably going to really happen then. Like, because it was about my life it's about my life actually unfolding in real time. And it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds next year then, because what you're saying about the writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I really believe in that.
So was the man that you met in the furniture business, was that your husband?
No,
Okay.
he introduced me to two other gentlemen, and the four of us had um, it was called Margell Designs, and we just there wasn't anything we couldn't do because one was a manufacturer's rep, the other had he could build me anything from sofas to chairs to beds to table, whatever I wanted, he could create it and build it. And then the other young man was wanted to be a designer, so he took my course, and I told him that his one problem is you are telling people what to do. You need to listen to who they are.
Mm.
And so he realized he wouldn't be very good at it. So he added on, and the two of us added to interior residential and commercial design to doing showroom design. And he became a partner, and we just all, for over 30 years, had a wonderful journey.
How long were you
So
writing about manifesting that before that actually unfolded?
maybe a year and a half.
Mm. And it was like an everyday practice?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
And
it
I
was
see myself.
synchronistically lined up, right? You guys were like synchronistically lined up?
Well, my first was that I wanted to find a job teaching,
Mhm.
which I did. Um, and then I looked after I was teaching, I wanted to find now a manufacturer's rep who could get me any piece of furniture I needed
Yeah,
because I didn't have time to go out and research all this furniture.
right.
So, I mean, he just walked into my life.
That's so cool.
And I know. It just, and I'm such a believer when you write it down, open the door, it happens.
I'm
It
like
happens.
I'm committing to this, Mackenzie. My producer's name Mackenzie. I always talk to her during my episodes too. Sorry, but yeah, I'm like going to commit to this because I've been telling myself you got to start writing it out. You got to start writing it out. Do you think that this has anything to do with scripting? Have you heard of that?
No,
It's a manifesting technique.
no, I just wrote out where I wanted to be and I just made it happen.
She
As I
just
say,
intuitively knew. Yeah.
yeah, I did. And when I wanted my TV show, I said to my three partners, I'm not coming back until I have my own show. And they went, we'll never see you again. And I thought, oh, yes, you will. And within a day, I had my own show.
Wow.
People want to make sure that you really want what you're going after. So the one guy came out from the studio and he said to me, can you take your chair down? I got a director's chair. And I was sitting on that. And he said, can you get it out of here? Can you go back to wherever you work and write out what you want to do? Give me about maybe 5 to 10 shows of what they would look like and bring it to me tomorrow morning. And we'll let you in.
Hmm.
So I ran home and I typed up I just let my imagination roll. And I called it Moments with Margi
Love
because
it.
I wanted to do cooking. I want to do design. I wanted to do a little bit of everything. And from there, it went into the designing doctor.
Mm.
And then when we moved from Toronto here, it was called Desperate Design because everybody was desperate.
I love those names. They're all great.
Yeah.
How long did you have
So
your show?
probably about 34 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What network was it on?
Well, in Toronto, I'm not sure what it was in Toronto. WJZY here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta take a look at this. I didn't know about this. So
I
now
haven't
you
been
have
on
a
for, I have not been on probably for about 20 years.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I started doing the podcasts and I also do radio.
So what made you go into the podcasting versus the show? You were just ready for something new or
Um, well, and again, my story shifts when my husband got sick and I had to be the caretaker for 4 years.
okay.
And the last thing he said to me was, "I'm dying today." And I said, "I know.
Mm.
I want you to go out, rewrite your life, and be the best that you can be today for tomorrow." And within, I kid you not, within probably
Chills.
2, 3 weeks, I got a call from a friend of mine saying, "I just got a radio show and I don't want to do it alone and I don't know how to do it. Will you co-host it with me?" And I thought, "Thank you. Yes, I would love to." And the podcast I've been working on developing, but hadn't spent a lot of time with it until I had the time to spend with it.
Mm.
So again, Lee was determined that I would go and just do what made me happy.
How long were you
And
with you and Lee together? 36 years you said, I think before?
yes,
Yeah.
36 years, yeah.
I remember you telling me that, yeah.
It's so support and that helps too. I mean, just so supportive of everything I did,
Yeah.
and that makes a huge difference.
Mm. And when did he pass?
He passed April 23rd, 3 years ago.
Okay. So it's still
So,
fresh.
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It is very fresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
36
people
years of
keep
your life.
saying, you've written everything down. Why are you not writing a little journal for grieving?"
Mm.
And it's because he meant so much to me. I don't want it to end,
Mm.
if that makes sense to you. I want to
Yeah.
remember him. I want to keep going back to what he would want me to do.
Yeah.
And so that's been a joy to me as well.
Wow. You live like this magical secret life, like the movie The Secret, where everything just organizes for you. What would you say is the main belief behind that or the frequency behind that makes that happen for you? Because I would love that. If I could just, relax and not try to force anything or control anything, that's like my goal right now, and this is no coincidence that I'm talking to you today, because that's the main thing I'm trying to work on is just allowing the universe to orchestrate it all and do it for me so I can relax and quit trying to control everything, right?
You can't control everything. It's out of your control.
Right. And which makes it even more
And you
absurd.
just said the biggest word in the dictionary, believe.
Yeah.
Um, and I won't go into my background, but when I was 5 years old, I went to church with my neighbor and just fell in love with the whole idea. And thank heavens I had that in me during those car accidents because that's what got me through. A lot of this is not in your hands,
Yeah.
but if you have the tools to write down where you want to go, what you want to do, and then let it go to the universe, as they say,
Mm.
it will come back to you in a bigger and better way than you ever thought it would.
She keeps going back to that. You keep going back to the writing. That's your secret weapon, I feel. Whenever you did go through those 3 car wrecks in that 1 year, do you feel that that built up your resilience to where your belief just became, "I can do anything because I went through hell and I got through that. I can do anything."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing to me when Dean Bigelow came to my house and I could walk down those stairs
Yeah.
when 2 months before that I couldn't get out of bed.
Being down for a full year, you you were probably just you had so much freaking gratitude just to be able to even do that. Like, we take it so for granted every day, just getting up and
That's right.
walking yeah, getting up and walking to the toilet even, like, going to the bathroom even, like, I know when my partner broke his back, he couldn't pee for, like, 2, 3 I think it may have been 2 weeks or something, and we were praying and praying, and I said, "Listen, we've done the Reiki, we've done all the energy work." I was having all these people come in, I said, "Listen, you gotta talk to Jesus at this
That's right.
point," and he did, and boom, I got chills. Right after that, like 24 hours later, he was able to pee again. But it was just like that little thing right there. We take it so for granted every day, and I feel like that maybe did really mold your psyche to be able to do everything you are doing. Um,
Well, and then I also have a very interesting story. When my son was 16, 15,
mhm.
I sent him to camp to grow up because he was being a typical teen lying around. And I just said, I want you to go and experience, not just the sofa.
Mhm.
So the first day of camp, he had a diving accident. I'll never forget it as long as I live. They called me and said, your son is totally paralyzed in the hospital.
Oh my god.
So by the time I got there, and it was funny because my daughter had told the nurses, don't let my mom come in here without me. Well,
Oh.
you couldn't have stopped me. You couldn't have stopped me. I got in, he was on the striker board upside down. So I climbed underneath his bed and his tears were splashing on my face. And he said,
Oh.
Mom, they told you you'd never walk again. And I said, that's what they told you. We'll see about that.
I
And
just got chills all over.
I said to Alex, what I would like you to do is cry with me today. Tomorrow we have work to do. And we did. We
Our
cried. I stayed
babes.
with the whole night and we just cried and cried. And um, next thing I knew, I said, I've got a plan for you. And he said, get that C doctor that you got when you had your car accident. I said, a chiropractor can't help you.
Mm,
You're screwed to the wall. They can't do anything. So
yeah.
I got Reiki and I got reflexology.
Mhm.
And I got those 2 people came every day after work. One would come one day, one would come the next day. And I'll never forget the reflexology gal was working on his feet and he said, "Oh, that feels so good."
Mm.
With that, I said, "You can feel that?" And he said, "Yeah, I can feel it, Mom." And I said, "You will walk. You've
Mm.
got work to do." Beautiful. He's walking, very successful, 3 beautiful boys, beautiful wife. And again, belief, believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, believe.
So, do you feel that you feel like having these tragic things happen to a person, like, what if someone hasn't had something that intense, right? And they haven't been able to get to the level that you're at. What would be the one piece of advice that you would give
I would
them?
say go find who is doing what you want to do
Mm. God, she's good.
and and be and mentor that person. When I went to college, Carol Burnett was my roommate, one of my friends' real sister.
Mm.
Her sister on TV was not her real sister. And she was coming to school in a couple of weeks. And I said, how much money would it take to meet your sister? And she said, well, you just join us for lunch. So all of a sudden, Miss Burnett said to me, or she said, I understand you have a question you want to ask me. And I said, Miss Burnett, she said, no, my name is Carol.
Hmm.
And I said, how did you become the best that you became? And she said, never associate with anybody that's less or can do what you can do. Always achieve higher. Always try to be with people who have achieved more than you could or more than you have, so that you keep raising your stakes. And that's what I've always done.
Wow.
And, how I got into the color industry was a man came on the TV. His name was David Beach. And he worked for, which is now Sherwin-Williams. And he had done all the color forecasting. And I said, I want to be him. And I spent a year and a half haunting this man and trying to find out where he was. And then we had moved from Vancouver, BC to Toronto. And who walked into my office but David Beach? He said, I have heard your name has come to me. And I said, I have been calling you ever since you lived in Vancouver. And everybody said, I have to meet you. So we started doing TV shows together. He then retired and gave me his job. So I was the head of color and design. I know. So again, you can't stand still. Even if you're paralyzed, you don't stand still.
Wow. You are such an inspiration. It's like talking to a freaking little life magician, like a little genie that walks around and doesn't have to do anything. It's just effortless living, like your lifestyle. But I guess it wasn't to you, because you said that you
You
spent
had to put a lot of work into it.
yeah, you spent a year relentlessly trying to, make contact with this David Beach. And then he just ends up walking into your office, though. Like,
But
I just
there
think
again,
that's
if you've got a dream, you've got to do everything possible to achieve it. Like meeting Carol Burnett, who I had admired for years,
yeah.
and to be able to go and have lunch with her, you know.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you some of the other people that John Ritter, and I just because
Incredible.
you never say no to yourself. Other people can say no, and that's their loss. You move on.
You never say no to yourself. So we do that a lot. People do. I know I do. I do that
Yeah.
every day. Yeah. So
Why?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I guess I guess people think about like other people, like in their reality or whatever. But when you're saying no to you, you're not any fun to be with anyway. So why the hell would you know what I mean? Like you walk
Yeah.
around in resentment, you walk around, in this lackful feeling. And when you walk around with a lackful frequency, you only attract more of that. So I
With
guess
all the
saying,
kids that I have mentored over the years, I had this one little boy who thought he might be a designer. So he followed me around for about 6 months. And at the end, I said, so what do you think? And he said, you miss Air Canada. You get in the car and you fly. And he said, I could never do all the things you do. And I said, well, you've just put a great roadblock in front of you. And no, you probably won't.
Mm.
With that attitude, you won't. But if you go write your life story out and don't stop until you achieve, you will. We are our own worst enemies.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I know. My last question for you is like, it does get hard when you're not like seeing the on the outside, right? Like you're you're working hard, you're putting everything into it, but the reality's not caught up yet. You're still in like the lag of it, of the becoming. What you had to have experienced that, right? In your journey.
Well,
What
with
would
all
you
the moving around country to country, and yeah,
Okay. So what would you tell yourself when you would start to go low in those low points of, man, I'm trying everything, I'm giving it my all and it's still not, unfolding yet. I mean, I was feeling that whenever I came here, even though I've only been doing this for a short period of time and I feel like I've had a lot of success doing what I'm doing. My book's not even out yet, right? But like I do get down on myself and I'm like this perfectionist. I try to like I beat myself up a little bit, but on my way here, I was just like kind of dragging and I was like, maybe I just need a break. Maybe I need to take a break. But then when I take a break, I miss it so bad and I want to come back. So it's like, what would you say to somebody when they're in that lag period, when they're becoming the new identity?
you are goalless. You have no goals. When I moved to I'm not Canadian, and I moved to Canada. I don't know how many times. That's not easy.
Mhm.
When people say, "How did you get to the Carolinas?" I go, "By the car. It just landed here. We loved it, and that was it." So then I had to do my research.
Mm.
What are the groups that I need to go and join? Who are the Chamber of Commerce, Rotary? What are the top groups in your area? Join them. Be with people who are doing things bigger and better than you.
Okay.
You
So that's
can't
what I'm
live
not
what God
doing.
handed you. No, you're not.
I'm not being in a community. Um, I kind of isolate myself. So yeah, I need to get around people more like what I'm wanting to do or where I'm
That's right.
wanting to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow. Well, man,
Walk in their shoes. Walk in their shoes.
wow. Well, I, I I believe this is a sign that I got to talk with you today, and I mean, you just landed in my lap. So, I would love to meet you in person soon. Um, you're just
Absolutely. My door's always open.
you're a magical woman, Margie.
Thank you.
So, thank you
I've
for
tried.
being
I've tried.
thank you for being such an inspiration to all of us on the show today, and I will see you soon.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
All right, hon. Bye bye.